Hey, everybody, welcome to a new episode of Walk in Faith. I'm sitting down with Nathaniel Dean, or Nate, as we'll call him today, to discuss his latest film, which is, it's interesting, Nate, because one is, I think we definitely have crossed paths before. I mean, I've been to Sight
Okay.
and Sound plenty of times. Everyone knows that I love Sight and Sound. I've covered most of their productions. Uh,
Right.
Love going there. I'm in Lancaster a lot. Everybody knows that. It's one of my favorite places. But it's interesting because I don't know if I've ever actually sat down with someone that produced the film, but also the film is based on their current, on their life. So
Right.
when I got the story and I watched the film, and then I had to process it, of course, afterwards. And I said, and I was telling my wife today actually about it, and she couldn't believe it.
Wow.
So I just want to thank you for that, for
Mm.
creating this amazing, inspiring film. But tell us a little bit about, how you or why you even decided to tell this film, tell your story, what it was like, and why now?
Yeah. It took a long time to heal from a lot of the things that I went through in my past, and I didn't want to tell my story for a long, long time. I felt like it was too hard. I was putting too much of myself out there for the world to see. But then about 11 years ago, um, uh, I decided that this is a story worth telling, that people needed to hear it, that people needed to hear that you can change and that there is redemption and hope in this world. And as I wrote the script early on, I wanted it to be a movie right off the bat. I didn't want it to be a book. I love film. I love the medium of film, and just from the very beginning, my friend and I, as we wrote it, it was a movie. I'm a very visual person, and so just wanted it to be a movie. And I just think it's so in the times right now, where we just need to be better, kinder, gentler with each other in every way. Maybe not to the extent that Mr. Dean, the teacher that's also featured in the film, was with me, but there's those small acts of kindness that can go a long way.
Hmm.
And that's what this film's about.
No, I agree with you. There were so many reflection points throughout the film. Mr. Stan Dean. He made me think about a teacher that not to that extreme, but I had a teacher, Mr. Stewart, which maybe he's watching it. And I remember him saying something to me. I went to a Catholic school. My parents were struggling. We didn't have money. And they were paying for me to get a good education. And I guess I wasn't giving it 100%. And he approached me and he said something to me. And in that moment, it changed my life. And I always think about, like, if I ever see him and if he's still, this is, 30 years ago, I wanted to thank him for that. But like you said, it was that act of kindness. And as I'm watching this and I'm thinking about the selfless acts that Mr. Stan Dean, and I said, imagine if we take one of those attributes, right? Just one, how
Yes, yes.
different the world would be. Because, I
Yep.
mean, one thing, like, I mean, there was so many key points, but like, I mean, think about just judging someone, right? We look at somebody from the lens of today and we put them in a box or we stereotype them, whatever, but we don't realize, like you, I was gonna say your character, you in real life, what you went through, right? All of the adversity, the challenges. I mean, just tell us about some of them personally, because you overcame so much. And I'm judging you, right? Because that's my job as a viewer, to judge the character. And I'm
Yeah.
judging it from my perspective. And then I realize at the end of the film what
Yeah.
you went through. And I put myself in
Yeah.
that position. And I am not that strong, Nate. I mean,
Ooh.
how did you overcome some of these, I don't even call them challenges, but these traumatic experiences in your life?
Yeah, I mean, from a very early age, I experienced childhood trauma at its worst. Some of the worst things that a child can go through, I witnessed. And I don't want to give it all away. You've got to go see the film. And I love how it's not revealed to the end, because I do want people to go, oh, do I really like this kid? Like, what's his problem? Because that's what we do today in society sometimes. Um, but I think as you get to know people and you get to know their story, you might think differently about them. And maybe not always, but in this case, the audience sees all of the trials and tribulations that I go through. And so basically, I grew up very angry, mad at the world, mad at God, thinking that the world just owed me. Like, why should I have to go through all this stuff? And so, I went through the foster care system, and that wasn't a fun thing for me. I know in a lot of cases it's a wonderful thing. I'm not trying to the film doesn't do anything in harming of that, but just really just ran away at the age of 16. I had enough. I thought I could do better on my own, and ended up living in my car and starving, and still trying to go to school. Lied to the principal, lied to my girlfriends, lied to my friends saying, you know, oh, everything's fine. I'm staying at my uncle's house, or I'm staying at my friend's house, or oh, my mom's away this week, whenever they tried to reach out. But, my foster parents never came looking for me. And so ended up in a really bad situation and walked into the classroom of this teacher who I had only had like four or five classes. It was the beginning of the year, and an amazing scene in the film where he does this small acts of kindness with me and gives me something and didn't want anything in return, just saw a need in me and said, "Hey, here, have this. I know you need this. You're hungry." And such a beautiful moment in the film. And that really, I call the planting of the seed of hope in my life. I didn't know it then. I don't think he knew it then. But really, from that kind of moment on, my life started to change. Wasn't overnight, didn't happen overnight. That's very evident in the film. But yeah, that was kind of the hardships that I went through.
Wow. And like you said, you don't want to give it away because I didn't know. I mean, I could not figure out the ending until the end. And then, okay, I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm thinking from my perspective, okay, what's going to happen? And then I wasn't expecting that at
Right.
all. And also too, you said something too about just like the love and the acts of kindness, and thinking about too what you went through. Like I could put myself in that position. I said, would I even go to school? Probably not. Would
Yeah.
I have been, a criminal? Probably. I mean, because and then that would have been okay. Like I think most people would have accepted and said, well, you went through a lot. Instead, you were a great athlete. I mean, you went to school, you made yourself presentable. I mean, you
Yeah.
one thing I didn't understand, I'm looking at the Legos on the left because I love Lego.
Oh, sorry.
No, I love it. I'm like, is that a Camaro? But how did you why did you or did you really have a car like that? You had a Trans Am or a Pontiac? What you had such a
Yeah, I had a Camaro.
did you have that?
So I actually I decided to run away at age 15, but I didn't want to do it without a car. So I worked at a Wendy's, a local Wendy's, every day for a full year. And literally the day I got my license, the day I turned 18, I bought that car. Back then it was John, I mean, it was already, you know, 12 years old. So
Oh,
it
it's
wasn't in great
beautiful.
shape. Oh, it's beautiful in the movie, but it wasn't as great as that. But I kind of was into cars, and that was the thing that young kids had. And I was also a nerd in like 10th grade, and I figured if I let my hair grow into a mullet, and because that was what people loved, and got on a hot car, maybe I'd fit in better. And in fact, I did actually a little
You
bit.
did, yeah, and I think
But
that
that's how I got the Camaro.
using
So
that car was a good idea because it threw me off from the beginning. I didn't think that you were homeless or lived in the car. I said, okay,
right.
maybe he just doesn't go home and maybe he doesn't have a good relationship with his family. So I think that
Yeah.
was a good choice to use a car that was in amazing condition. And like I said, I love that Camaro Lego on the left. But you mentioned about the small act of kindness, and it's a small act, but it's a great point. And I like candy, I like gummies, but I don't love Hershey. My son and I like. You ever go to Lidditz? There's the
Yes.
shop.
The
What is it?
Wilbur
The
chocolate, yes.
Wilbur. So maybe if you would have picked Wilbur and Lidditz, I think I
I
would have.
didn't I didn't pick it. It's the actual candy bar that Stan offered me was a Hershey bar. And so I love them both.
No,
Uh,
I heard that you're addicted to chocolate bars, so I don't know if that's
yes,
true.
I actually love Hershey chocolate bars because of that story, because of that moment. It's more sentimental than flavor. I mean, I've definitely had better chocolate in the world. Don't tell them I said that. But I mean, but that chocolate bar means the world to me.
Yeah, and
And
then
as
when
I
you
tell my story, I like to give people the chocolate bar. I like to say, hey, do you have an aunt or an uncle or a brother or a sister, or even maybe your mom, needs to hear my story. Maybe they're going through addiction. Maybe they're going through something. Tell my story, and use this candy bar as a way to start the story. Because sometimes it's hard to just say, hey, you're addicted to drugs or something, get into the hard stuff. Just share my story. Use that candy bar. They can be eating a candy bar and hearing a great story and go, wow, if that kid made it, I can make it too.
That's an interesting point. And when you find out later on in the film about the candy bar, right? The
Yeah,
second time or third time you bring it up, it's just like the ending. Like I wasn't expecting that. I
right.
wasn't expecting that. But really, it was such a powerful film. And what you were saying earlier too, just about how he had that act of kindness, and you
Yeah,
think about it, and especially like you said, you use the candy bar to start these conversations. But think about how many people we interact with in our lives that are going through situations, whether it's trauma, addiction, and because we'll just say it, sometimes we can be selfish, self-centered. We don't notice other people, right? And if we
right.
are really called to love our neighbors and to really
Yeah,
focus on other people and not so much ourselves. Think about all the people that we interact with and the way, Stan just saw something. Maybe he
yep.
felt a call, maybe he felt, I don't know, he felt something, but he noticed you and he
Yes.
took that time, that moment to just reach out to you by using that candy bar. Think about
Right.
how many people that in a daily life that we ignore and we don't really
Yeah.
take the time to just get to know them or to just offer them, a hug or a handshake or a smile.
Yep, just a smile. Stan was always so pleasant with that, and he wouldn't almost allow you to walk past him without making eye contact and saying, "Hey, good morning, how are you?" Not necessarily wanting a full like conversation, but just, "Hey, I recognize you." You see so many kids walking today with their phones looking down, or they're on a plane and they don't even look at the person next to them, even for a 5-minute conversation. Like that actually happened to me today. Like the girl was just like completely in her own little world. And all I wanted to say was, "Hey, good morning, how are you?" But you know what I mean? Just human connection is so important these days. And there's so many people who are alone, and you don't know. I tell the story, my wife and I were at a furniture store, and this woman came in with a young child, and the kid did so well. And we were just like, and there were other kids in the store, and they were just running around, jumping and bouncing, and this kid was just, doing everything the mother said, and my wife felt compelled to just say to her, good job. Like, you have a really wonderful child. You're a great mother. And this woman just broke down. And she's like, I needed to hear that. You don't know how badly I needed to hear that because there are times when I struggle. And I just, it's just so good to hear someone say and notice, you
Mm.
know. And so those little things go a long way. You just don't know what people are going through on a daily basis. There will
That's
be people who watch this film that I went to high school with and say, "Oh my word, I never knew that he went through that." Like they don't even know it to this day, some of them, you
real.
know. Yeah, I mean, if they left the area and haven't heard about the film much, like I never talked about it. I never shared it with people. Um, so I get a lot of calls like, "Hey man, I didn't know that. If I would have known that, I would have helped you." Even the track coach said to me, "Hey man, if you just would have come to me, I would have helped you." And I said, "Well, what you would have done is you would have called my foster parents, and I probably would have had to go back. And so that's why I lied to you. And that's why I could take a shower because I told him I was out running track every day." I was out every morning running track so I could get a shower and wash my clothes.
What do,
So,
what do you think would have happened? Like, for instance, if Stan wouldn't have gave you that chocolate bar, because obviously, as a believer, we know that everything has to line up, and we know it's the hand of God. It's
yeah,
no
yeah,
coincidences. But what do you think would have
right.
happened if you would have shared your story? If they would have called your foster parents? I mean, you wouldn't be sitting here, obviously. But what do you think would have happened?
I don't know. I mean, I would have soon turned 18 and probably just been out on my own anyway, in the next year or so. So it wouldn't have been good. I don't know if they would have even taken me back. They could have denied me coming back to them. And then I would have had to go back into a youth center or something until they found another family that would take me in to help me. But sadly, when kids turn 15, 16 and they're not adopted, they tend not to get adopted and they age out. And those situations aren't always very favorable.
Mm.
Because to be honest with you, I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to write a check. I didn't learn the things that most parents teach their kids growing up. It was just like I existed. I didn't celebrate Christmas or birthdays very much. If you did, it was like, "Hey, happy birthday," and that was it, or like no parties and gifts and things. And so the Christmas scene in the movie is so special to me because that really truly was my very first, what I call my very first Christmas of actually celebrating, actually feeling loved, actually feeling, which was hard for me. That's why in the movie I'm like, "Who are those gifts for?" And he's like, "They're for you." And for me, I didn't know how to be loved. I didn't understand that. That totally threw me off. And the only thing I knew was to just get out of the house and run because that's all I ever did, you know.
So how
So
old are you when you first, understood or learned to love?
I had almost turned 18. I was 17, really, when I met Stan. Stan was the teacher that helped me understand that one, he cared for me. It was the first person that ever said, "I care for you, Nate. I care that you graduate. I care that you don't get in any more trouble. I care that you start making better choices. And I care about, you make all your pay all your restitutions and fines for all the things that you did." He cared. And I realized that somebody actually cared for me. And then he started creating this community around me. He got me involved in the arts and theater. And things just started to change. And I wanted to change. I think that's the important thing too. You can help people all you want, but if they're not willing to make a change, then that gets really tricky. But just don't give up on them. Don't stop loving them because they're not doing what you're asking of them. You just can't stop because there were many times when I did the wrong thing with Stan and he didn't give up and he never judged, and he always encouraged me, and that was pretty spectacular and amazing.
Well, I'm assuming you're a believer, right?
Yes,
Was it hard for you to accept that, Jesus loves you? And you have a heavenly
at,
Father that loves you?
yeah, at the beginning it was very hard, but Stan was great with all of it because he was a believer. He was a great man of faith, but he never forced it on me. Those early weeks and months when I first uh, moved in with him. I'm sleeping on the couch. Sunday morning would come and he'd just say, "Hey, in about an hour, I'm leaving for church." He did a lot of speaking, and he wasn't a pastor per se, but he would speak at a lot of churches. And he'd say, "Hey, I'm going to be speaking. If you'd like to hear it, just come along." And if I said no, he was okay. He didn't push. He would try to like encourage, and then one time he was going to a church and I knew the family that went there or something. And so I said, "Oh, I'll go. Maybe I'll see the girlfriend the girl that I thought was cute and whatnot." And so I went with him and he was spectacular, like standing up in front of this church talking about life and talking about kids and youth, who was never a father. But man, can I tell you, he knew how to talk to young people because he was a teacher for 35 years. And so, yeah, and just to hear him talking about this man named Jesus and how it changed his life. He wasn't a Christian until he was in his 40s. And so I just knew that he was living a life that I desired, and
Mm,
that life was living Christ-like.
that's right.
And and then, like I said, it was probably 2 years that it took. But if he had pushed it hard, we probably wouldn't have that relationship. And I think that sometimes as Christians, we can push Jesus on people when they're not
Yep.
ready,
Yep.
right? You push love on them and
Yes.
you tell them you love them and they means, then that kind of breaks some of those walls down because I had a lot of walls around me. And I'm hoping that that's what this film is too, that it's going to break down some walls for people who are struggling, who are going through hard times, who are actually asking for help in their own way, but don't know who to ask. It may not be that they're just going to walk into a church and say, "I need help," but they might sit down at a movie on a Friday night and watch this story and go, "Whoa, what's going on?" And maybe they'll research more and they'll get on the website and exciting things.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, just to think about, like you said, well, one is to, okay, like you could call yourself a Christian, like Stan called himself a follower of Christ, but he lived that.
He
There was no
lived.
contradiction. That's one thing too we have to be concerned about too, is I call myself a Christian, but do people see me acting Christ-like? Am I a mirror of Christ? I want people just like you to see me walking, like you said about your wife in the store, or
Yeah.
smiling, right? Returning your shopping cart, which I always complain about. But
Yeah.
little things like that, where people look at us differently and say, like they did with Stan when he walked around town, everyone showed him love and affection. They all knew him, not
Yep.
because of, it was because he paid attention, he cared, he looked them in the
Yes.
eyes, like you said, he loved them unconditionally, he respected them. That's
Yeah.
Christ-like. That's what we're called to
Yeah.
do. That's how we're called to act. And I'm watching that going, So that yes, I definitely believe there are a lot of scenes and just attributes that Stan had, like be more like Stan. Like I would
Yeah.
see a T-shirt, but one thing too, and I'm I'm assuming most of it is accurate, right? Because you wrote the
Yeah.
script. But I mean, there's got to be a time when you reflect and say, why me? In the sense of why did God save me? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you know what happened. I mean,
Yeah.
people that watch the film will know. And
Yeah.
I know for me too, like just living a life that's been different, unique, we'll say. There's times when I think and I say, why me, God? Why, why'd you save me in this situation? And then sometimes for me, there's this level of guilt, right, that comes, or this anxiety that from the enemy, like you're not worthy, that we all get.
Uh, yeah.
What do you, I mean, what did you come to the sort of the conclusion that why God saved you? Why was that guy there, that man there, that was there to help you? Why?
Um,
Why you?
I think for such a time as this,
Mm,
he knew that I would be healed from it all and that I would be able to share my story for thousands of people, right? Like that's why I'm doing it. I wanted to tell a story about a man of integrity who lived Christ-like. He wasn't perfect. No one is, right? But he was himself, and he was fun, and he had humor. But he loved people. He loved on people, and that's what I want, for people. And for me, I know that when I witnessed what I witnessed with my parents, that God was there. I didn't know it then, but he was there when I was in prison. He was there when I met Stan. He was there in all of the hard times. And he's still with me, and I can just feel it every day. I wouldn't be the man that I am. It takes true healing and self-forgiveness. I think that's really important, because I blame myself for a lot of what happened to me. I thought that, some of the things I may have said to my dad caused things, or my mom, or, all of those things. They can add up in your mind. Um, and the big theme in the movie is you've got to deal with your problems. You cannot run from them. You cannot hide from them. You have to get them done. You have to deal with them, accept the consequences, pay your tuition, whatever it is, and then move forward in a positive direction. Like literally, you're one choice away, right? We're all one choice away from good or bad.
hmm
Sometimes people get it road rage, and you just see a normal person who just for some reason they were at the end of the rope and they may cause an accident because they had road rage or something. Like that one decision to act back angrily can take you in a very negative way, or you can say, you know what, I'm just going to let this guy pass. I don't care that he cut me off. It's those little decisions which end up could being very big decisions. Um, but for me, I just know. And then making the film, there were so many challenges. I mean, it was like a roller coaster. The film industry is really, really hard. It's not a fun industry. It looks glamorous when you see the red carpet, but can I tell you, there's so many people that want to change things or move things, or they want to be a part of it and then they back out. There's so many things, and that's part of filmmaking. Um, but I just felt like God was there going,
Yes.
there was times when I felt like I should just stop. This is too much. And like I couldn't stop it. Like God, the Lord's like, this story's getting out. It's gonna get out. I mean, it literally is a miracle, I think, that this movie's getting out and that my story's getting out. Because it's rare to have a low independent film, make the big screen. I mean, we're in 2,200 theaters, movie theaters across the country on Friday.
It's
Like
amazing.
that's unheard of. Um, and that's the Lord working. That's the
Nate,
Lord.
listen, I review films all week, right? That's not the only thing I do, but it's one of them. And I'm also, working on a film currently. And that
Awesome.
voice comes every day, every day. And I know it's God from the beginning that put it in my heart because the door's open. But that voice of the enemy comes that constantly says, no, why are you doing this? No one's gonna. I mean, there's a million every day. He tries
Yep.
a
Yep.
different sort of scenario to sort of take me off course, and I feel that in my spirit, God's like, just one more day, one more day, one more day. And you're right. I mean, I've been in the business, probably around the same age for a long time, and I thought it was so glamorous. And then when you realize maybe it's glamorous if you're serving the enemy or creating
Yeah.
films that don't glorify God. But when we try to put out faith-based content glorifying Jesus Christ, you know it, man. It is hard. You get people that just want to be involved to destroy the story. People that, like you said, will just prolong the process. I mean, it is not glamorous at all. And hopefully things change. But you're right. To get a film like yours out there, being in 2,200 movie theaters, I mean,
Yeah.
it is a really good film. I mean, he's
Good.
a star. I worked with him probably 20 something years ago on a film called Igby Goes Down with Macaulay Culkin's brother, which I don't even,
Okay.
I think it was Kieran Culkin. I was a kid.
Yes.
I worked with him, he was one of the main characters, and I remember
Right.
spending time with him. And I wasn't familiar with his work. So when I saw him in this film, and I've seen him in other things, I'm like, I mean, he's a star.
Yeah.
I mean, really, Nate, you did a great job. And like you said,
Thank you.
you're glorifying God. But one
Yeah.
thing too, like as I'm watching this at the end, I'm like, all right, I feel like, and I'm just spitballing here, but like a call to action because there is something there where Stan has impacted my life, but also can impact other people's lives to be more like Stan. And I don't know if there's something on your website, but really just like creating this movement, because
Yeah.
Stan really, the way he cared for you, the way he loved you, the way this film came about, it's inspiring and it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So, man, if more people could be like Stan,
Yep.
I really believe the world would be a better place.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, um, be a stand-in in your community, right? And it can start with the small things. But hopefully it's even the bigger things. And even through this movie, you can pay it forward. You can literally buy tickets on the apple.com website and pay it forward for other people who you don't even know who are struggling and maybe can't financially take their family, right? They're going to get free tickets to go see this movie. And that's amazing. That is so cool. And we're also giving free tickets to teachers. Like this, I think the film is so much more than just a movie. It's not just entertainment. It does have some darkness, but I feel as a filmmaker, I wanted to share that darkness so that good people can see that there are needs in this world, that there are kids who aren't eating lunch every day in school or living maybe on the streets or whatever. But then I also wanted it to absolutely be the light at the end, and show that juxtaposition of darkness and light because it exists. And it's amazing when that bright light just gets brighter, and it's just like amazing when you get there. And that's just sticking with it, never giving up on somebody, being for somebody. That's a big thing.
Wow. Amazing. What do you think? I was thinking about it. I'm like, if Stan was to watch the film, I don't know Stan, obviously.
Yeah,
I didn't know him, but obviously he would be proud. But
yeah.
then there's a part of me that thinks that he's probably so selfless that he probably wouldn't want a film made about him.
Well, he
What do
was around. He was around when I was working on the script, and he got to read the first version, and he loved it. But he's like, Nate, this is your story. I want this to be about you. Don't make it my story. And it didn't work until I made it his story because it really is about what another human being did for someone in need. That's what the story's about. When you make it about yourself, then it just, and he knew that. He knew um, um, that I needed to do this for me, that he didn't need to be recognized because that's not why he was doing it. But I'm honored to recognize him in this because he's the true hero of this movie. And I'm absolutely okay with
I
that.
love it. I love it. Nate, honestly, I advise people to see it. And I love Angel. We love Angel. Pay it forward. I mean,
Yeah.
giving someone the opportunity to go see a film that maybe they, like you said, they couldn't financially afford, but they need to hear the story, they need the
Right.
message. And if
Right.
there's one thing they walk away with after watching this film, because there's so many sort of key points in this film, I mean,
Yeah.
I think then you, like you said, you did your job, and to see it come to fruition, and I can only imagine what you went through with the adversity. I mean, there's a reason, right? There's a reason this
Yep.
film needs to come out at this time, and like we believe that he's looking down on you. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
proud of you. I don't know you, brother, but I'm very
Thank you.
proud of you. I'm very
That means
proud,
a lot.
very proud. So now tell us again. It's coming out. Tell us it's coming out this Friday. Give us some
Yep.
information. The
Yep.
website.
January 24th, it's out in 2,200 theaters across the country. So you can find tickets on angel.com or their app. They also have an app that you can get on, or just go to your local theater. It's in a lot of theaters. So, And hopefully this weekend, as we flood the theaters, it'll just continue on and that story can just continue to grow because that's what we're hoping for. Not financially as much as it's a great message of hope, redemption, um, being someone else's hero, but not wanting anything in return, right? Go out there and do good in this world, right? It's
I love
easier said than done, but small acts of kindness go a long way.
it. I agree. Well, Nate, thank you so much,
Thank you.
creating this film and telling your story. You're very brave, very brave.
Oh.
And I advise people to support Angel, support Nate. Log on to it. He has a website. What was the website now for the foundation?
So the website for the foundation is standeanfoundation.org. Yep.
.org. Okay. Well, we advise people to check out the film, log on to his foundation, his website, social
Yep.
media, and
Awesome.
support this film. It really is amazing. Thank you. Thanks again, Nate.
Awesome. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Guys, I
Yep.
hope you enjoyed today's episode of Walk in Faith. Always remember you have the ability to inspire and evangelize through your words and actions. God bless you.